Welcome back to our Grown Woman Talk. Today we are going to talk about managing expectations in the workplace. And this is whether you are an employee, this is whether you own a business, this is whether you seek to create a team. It's still all about you, your mindset, your expectations. So that's what we're going to dive in today. So stay with me. I am Charese Josie. I am a licensed clinical social worker and therapist. I'm also a women's leadership coach. And I like to work with the high achieving women leaders. I like to work with those strong women, the independent women, the go-to women, the responsible ones. You are the ones that people look up to, that they come to you when they need help. But then when you need something, when you need clarity, when you have questions, when you're just feeling unrest, you're just not sure where to go. That's what this forum is for. That's what this channel is for. If that resonates with you, go ahead and click the subscribe button. We're here every Monday dropping new videos to help you. If you want to work with me, go ahead and check the show notes. There are going to be some links there so we can work closer together and get to know each other. But let's go ahead and dive into this topic about how to manage your expectations in the workplace. So let's just get out the way that there are many toxic work environments. Is that okay to say? I mean, it's not good, but it's true. And there's also a lot of different reasons what makes a workplace toxic. It could be the working hours. It could be the lack of flexibility. It could be poor management and leadership. A lot of times that's usually the number one. It could be poor pay. It could be your colleagues, a lot of gossiping. There's a lot of reasons that can make a work environment toxic. Or it could just be some reasons that make a work environment just not good for you. So I want to make sure that you are clear about what is it that I'm doing at this work, at this job, at this employment, with this career, maybe even. And then what is it that I want to happen? What can I do to change some things? So we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation. So the first thing I want you to do is to know your why. What is your why? Why is it that you have this job? Why did you say yes? Why did you even apply? So whether it's your job or your career, what's your why? So me as a therapist, I might think, oh, I want to help people. At one point I worked with children. Oh yeah, I want to work with children. They're young, they're helpless. And I mean that in terms of they don't have a lot of, independence. And that's like, so I want to work with this population. But what I learned in the helping with children is that there also comes with emotional boundaries. How easy is it to get caught up into worrying about this child all the time? This is where I learned about my emotional boundaries in the helping profession, right? And then as I continued to navigate that career, I realized a lot was involved more than me just caring, right? There's systems and policies and just bureaucratic things that were so far beyond my control. And then I got to decide, is that something that I wanted to continue to do? But I did enjoy my time working with the children. So the answer was no, that wasn't something that I wanted to continue to do. The other thing, what's your why? Maybe you got this job for the pay. Maybe the pay is exactly what you needed. Maybe it's a bump up for your last job. Maybe the pay is saying, you know what, I have no income, so you're paying me something. Something is better than what I had yesterday, which is nothing. I want the pay. I need the income, or I want the increase, right? I have a lifestyle that I have, whatever that is. But maybe you get into the job and then you realize that the pay equals a unhealthy environment again, right? We're back to the toxic environment. So maybe you have learned that pay is not enough for you. When you may think, oh, as long as I get this payment or as long as I get this salary, right, that looks really good on paper, this is going to set my life up in all these different types of ways. And maybe it is true. Maybe it has helped your life in certain ways. But then you realize that maybe there's a cost to that, right? And you know that now pay isn't everything. Pay does not equal my happiness. And it may have some consequences because now that I have this pay, maybe this particular work environment is expecting me to work ungodly hours, right, with this unrealistic caseload. So now you've learned that pay isn't your thing. All right, so maybe benefits. A lot of us, we need benefits for ourselves, for our kids, for our family. Maybe you got this job for benefits. Maybe you got the job to further your career. Maybe this job had advancement potential, right? So you're like, I want to be fill in a blank. Maybe this is my opportunity to do that, right? And maybe you got the job because you were desperate. I've been between jobs and I was like, all I need is somebody to say yes. I'll figure the rest out later, right? And so I've had these jobs that maybe I was there for a week and a half, 2 weeks. That was Wendy's back when I was in college. Maybe even some professional job, maybe 2.5 months, 3 months. I'm like, yeah, this isn't a good fit. I just needed you to say yes. I didn't know what the next thing held for me. But now that I know more information, I know this isn't a good fit. And a lot of times they agreed with me as well. It was mutual, so it's fine, right? So I want you to know and I want you to think, what is it that I want from this job? What do I want to give this job? Here's your question. Do you want to give to your job or do you want your job to give to you? That's important to know. Am I here because I want to give to you all? Meaning I want to give my service, I want to give my help, I want to give my expertise, that I want to give my knowledge, I want to help you all with your systems, I want to give you all of my skills. This is great, right? Or maybe you want the job to give to you. What that means is, hey, I need something from you all. Right. So at one point in time, when I needed licensing hours to get my clinical license. So I needed a job that was, had the ability to get sign off on my hours so that I can send it to the board to get my clinical license. So when I got a job, I'm thinking I need you for something. So in my interview, that was one of my questions. Do you provide licensing hours? Do you have a clinical director here that can supervise me and sign off on my hours? Because I need something from you. Maybe you may go to a job and you say, you know what, I like this job and I need a mentor. This person who works in this position is someone who I want to be. This is a position that I want to be in one day. This is something that I want to do. I found that a lot in teachers or vice principals. They may say, yes, I'm taking this job as a vice principal because I ultimately want to become a principal. So people take on positions saying, I want something from you. And this is where our expectations come in, because the part that we don't know is, did the person even say that they're willing to give this to you? Do they have the personality or the desire to even mentor you or to lead you or to show you? Because what's true is that sometimes people know things, but they want to keep it to themselves, right? Because they don't want any competition in their job, or for whatever reason they have, they don't want to share it. So our expectation is that I'm going to give you something, or you're going to give me something, I'm going to get something in return, when there was no discussion that was had that agreed upon that. That's where we get in trouble with our expectations. So some other things we might need in a job is time, right? Like, what are your work hours? We need space. Are you going to micromanage me? We need flexibility. Are there different options for when I get to come into work and when I can leave work? Now, since COVID, a lot of jobs are being more flexible with their time. But I want you to be okay if you realize that some of this is not a good fit. And maybe you may need to do some things temporarily. Not what we typically anticipate, but sometimes it's okay. You know, sometimes we use jobs as a stepping stone, or we say, you know what, I need you to teach me this, and then I plan to move on as I grow and learn. But try to make that okay. Okay. But one of the things that I missed kind of early on in jobs is that I was so career focused, and you let me know this. I'm talking to high achieving women leaders, where we get so focused on our profession, our career, our education, or our next certification, is that we miss the relationship part of the job. We miss the relationship building in the job. And so that means we miss the networking, we miss the support, we miss all those things with the relationship building. Right. So one of the things when I supervised for the first time a long time ago, maybe, I don't know, over 20 years now, it was my first job. And I supervised people who were my colleagues. So if anyone has ever done that before, you know how challenging that is, right? So come in as we work together. Now I'm going to supervise you. Plus, it was my first time supervising. So, and I got hired because, well, one of the reasons because I worked there and I did a good job. I want you all to know, if you did not know before, someone that makes a good employee does not equally make them a good supervisor. Just because you have a great employee, please do not automatically assume that they're going to make a great supervisor and promote them. But nevertheless, I got promoted, got the supervisor job, and in my mind at the time, I am killing it. I am doing a great job. I am putting in systems. People are coming to me about how to do this, how to do that. People knew what to expect, but no one liked me. No one liked me because I took no time to build relationships. I thought as long as I said, hey, good morning, hey, how are you doing, and go by everyone's office, hey, you leave it, how you doing? If I left early on the day, I would go by and say bye to everyone. I thought that was good enough. I thought that was relationship building. I couldn't figure out what I miss. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit later about what relationships look like, but I want to make sure that you know that relationships also play a part in in business and managing those relationships, okay, and in the workplace. Because if we miss relationships and we get so stuck on just achieving, there's going to be a huge disconnect in that, and you're going to feel it at some point. And I want to try to minimize that. So, how do you know that you're in a toxic work environment? What tells you that, right? So this might be the time that you've learned what anxiety means. Maybe you've learned what depression feels like, right? Maybe your heart is beating. Excuse me. Maybe your heart is beating. I had a coworker who said that when he would pull into the parking lot at work, he would get these chest pains. And I had someone else who said every Sunday night she would get shoulder pains, and she didn't realize that it would attribute to the job until she left the job. This is how you know you're in a toxic work environment, when you start having somatic symptoms. That means your stress is now showing up physically. You might need to make some hard decisions. You might need to start looking and doing some other things that might want to help you out. So keeping boundaries, right? Some boundaries things that I did and some things that you can do to help manage that effect, that somatic symptoms that I was just talking about, is, this is going to sound backwards, I'm going to warn you, right? Is sometimes we might care too much, right? And that can cause stress in us. That can make us overwork. That can make us miss that relationship part. It's because we care too much. Now, what do I mean by caring too much? Caring too much means that now I am coming in early, I am staying late, I am taking on everyone's other work. I'm into the nitty gritty of the job when maybe I really don't have to. Maybe I care about everything. When you care about everything, that's an era of perfectionism that no one can hold up to, not even you, right? So when you care about everything, that becomes a boundary violation. So I want you to pick what strength you have and what stuff you can do, and then what other stuff you can delegate. And then sometimes we'll make decisions because things need to be done. I did a lot of things just because I felt like it needed to be done, but guess what? It was not in my job description to do any of that stuff. So burnout came quickly. If you are missing your lunch, you're eating at your desk, you're like, let me finish this really quick and then I'm going to do. Your to-do list is never over, right? And so again, you're violating that boundary, which builds up these poor expectations in the workplace, right? The other part, I'm just going to say this sentence and you tell me how you feel about it. You can drop it in the comments and let me know. Sometimes you give more to a job than what you're willing to lose. That means the cost gets too high, right? So I told you in this first job, sometimes I would come in early. Occasionally I would stay late, but more times than not, I was bringing work home because I had so much to do. And when I finally left the job, I gave a very long notice, something really ridiculous, like a month and a half, just because I'm thinking I'm so important. Oh my goodness, they need me so much. So I give a month and a half notice that I was quitting the job, that I was leaving. And the day before my last day, my supervisor called me in the office and he said, today's going to be your last day, not tomorrow. And I'm like, why? And honestly, in my mind, I was thinking embarrassment. Everyone knows this is my last day coming up, And he said, well, we hired someone to replace you and they're going to take your office, so they need a desk. They need a place to sit when they come tomorrow. And I was like, oh, and when I tell you mad, like I haven't been that mad in years. But I told my, after a while, once I kind of processed it and I kind of went through those emotions, and I said, I gave more to that job than I was willing to lose, and I'll never do that again. So now I'm going to come in when I'm supposed to, kind of. I'm going to leave on time, definitely. I'm going to take my breaks because my work ethic is not going to change. Because really, jobs don't really care much about your work ethic unless it impacts them emotionally. Jobs pretty much assume that they can always find someone to do the job, but they don't know that they can always find someone that fits well into the environment, that does not drive them nuts, and does not cause them additional stress. That's really what they care about. So if you have good work ethic, guess what? You don't have to prove it. You don't have to prove it, okay? All right, so when you're asked to break a boundary, you just tell people I'm not available for that. Now, some of you are going to listen to this and you'll be like, oh no, I can't say that in my workplace. Oh, absolutely not. I cannot say that I'm not available. I need to be ready. I can't tell my boss I'm not available. Yes, you can. You can. You can. You can tell them I'm not available for that. If you're able to give an alternative, give an alternative. Hey, can you go here? Da, 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 da. I'm not going to be able to do that because I need to finish this, but I can do such. Now, maybe your boss might say, yeah, no, you need to do, I need you to do this. You need to go right now. Okay, you decide you can do that right then and there if that's what you have to do. But now you know that there's no room, there's no space for you to do things that maybe you need to do, right? You get to decide that. And I'm talking about unhealthy work environments. I'm not encouraging anyone to not follow their job description and not do things that their boss is asking them to do. I'm talking about environments where people are asking you or your boss to ask you to do way above and beyond. Let me give you a quick example of that because I don't want you all to misconstrue what I'm saying, right? I want you going there and you're just all of a sudden, no, I'm not doing it. And another example of, I was asked to do something at a job and I told them no. It was one of my 2.5, 3-monthers way back when. I'm better now. Don't judge. And so it was a job where they didn't like my job performance. Now, to be clear, my job performance was fine, and I don't doubt that because I supervised other people and they raved about me. I think what the problem was is that they were comparing me to the previous employee that took her spot because she had a baby, and our styles were polar opposites. And I think they truly adored her. I think they missed her, and I don't think that they had time to grieve her. And because we were so opposite, I was not filling her shoes, and I would not and could not because I was not her. And I saw the work that she did, and I know my skills were completely different from hers. So anyway, the management had called me in, not happy with my work performance. And so I knew something was going on that I had to be prepared for, right? And so then after that, we were in a staff meeting. And the same supervisor said, hey, Charese, we have this project coming up. We think you'd be great at it. We'd like you to head that up. And I said no. Right in the staff meeting. I said no. And the whole room got quiet. And I said no. And the supervisor was like, you said no? I said no. And then she went on to something else. But let's keep in mind, I already knew that they were not pleased with me. I already knew that I need to find something else. And I ended up finding something else that didn't leave a gap in my work environment. But that's when I knew it was okay to say no. Other environments that are a little bit more healthier, maybe I'm overextended and I'm asked to do something, then I can have a conversation with my supervisor about when I'm able to do something, or I might need to delegate something to someone else because I don't have the capacity to get something done at a time that they want me to get it done. It might be a conversation. All right. So the other thing I want you all to do, and this is from the boundary setting, right? We're talking about managing our expectations in the workplace, is that be careful if you are asking your supervisor to take care of you. And we do that so inadvertently that we don't really realize that we're doing it. So when I'm overworked, overwhelmed, or I have clients that say, I'm so stressed at work and oh my goodness, and then maybe you go and talk to your supervisor about it, hoping for some support. Yes, absolutely, you should get that support. So does that happen all the time? No, because usually the supervisor wants the job done. No malice, nothing malicious. That's just what they're there for. They want the job done, right? And so I did that at one point. My supervisor was very empathetic, listening to me. But then when it came down to actually doing something, she's still looking at me to do the work. And I said to myself, well, wait a minute, why are you asking her to take care of you? And I was like, I don't need to ask another grown woman to take care of me because I am a grown woman. So then I just need to communicate what I'm doing. Hey, I was able to get this done. This I'll try to work on tomorrow. This should be done by Friday. Because I knew that's stuff that she wanted to know and she needed to know. So I would kind of be ahead of the game. I took breaks. I don't care if I had a thing full of emails and stuff all over my desk. I'm going to take my break. The other thing I want you all to do is I want you to pay attention. I don't want you to get comfortable. I think unfortunately, maybe fortunately, nowadays, people are staying at jobs for 20, 30, 40 years. Sometimes yes. Most of the time, no. And things change so fast and so rapid that we get comfortable at a job that we don't pay attention to the climate, we don't pay attention to the conversations, and we don't learn our supervisors, we don't learn any of that stuff. We get so comfortable, and then when something in the job changes, staff changes, program changes, expectation changes, positions come, positions go, all those things, we get blindsided. What happened, right? And I'm thinking you have to pay attention. And sometimes jobs will start new positions and I'm like, yeah, this is great, this is great. And sometimes I look at it, I'm like, but longevity, I don't see how this would stay, right? And maybe it wasn't a position of mine, but I would pay attention to that. I would notice those types of trends. I would try to, at least my best, and I would try to be ahead of the game. I'm thinking this is a sinking ship and I would like to get off. Go ahead and feel free to get off. So really quickly, I want to talk about relationships and then we'll close out. So relationships at work are important. I didn't give a lot of credit to them. I was so focused on the work and the systems and the process that I neglected the relationship. So I learned to shift the doing me to the being me. I had to learn how to be, right? So these are some ways that I did that. Is that I created an atmosphere. And when I say I created, I started a new agency. It was me and my supervisors. We had to hire their staff. We had to implement the systems, all those types of things. So I was responsible for doing that for my program. So when I say this is what I did, I really truly mean that. Right? So I created something with systems of checks and balances. This needs to be done first. So the first thing to do that where it takes it off of that I said, first I'm going to put in a manual. I'm going to write it down. It's going to be SOP. It's going to be standard operating procedures, right? So everyone's going to get the same thing. And then I'm going to follow it up when we do staff meetings. I'm going to reiterate the same thing with the process. Hey, y'all, don't forget, this is a step for this, is a step for this, send me this, then we'll be fine, right? And then I'll keep my own system that worked for me. You keep what works for you. For me, it was binders, emails. Okay, this came through an email. I'm going to put it here for this next staff meeting. Already done. Also telling me that I need to follow up on it. So the staff also knew, oh, if I do this, I know Charese is going to follow up. Got it? I'm being consistent here, right? And so establish a process and procedure, repeat the process and procedure, and then maintain that through emails, meetings, supervisions, those types of things. So when you're talking with your staff, you're not talking about work because you've already established these things. Now you get to truly ask them, how are you doing? How are things? Is there anything that you would like to talk about? Are there any concerns? Right? The other thing is, I don't agree with open door policies. I do not agree with them. If it works for you, it works for you, but it does not work for me. Unless you are in one of those emergency service professions. EMT, police, fire. I'm not in that type of profession, right? So some people will say, this is my emergency. Hey, I need you. Maybe it's not really an emergency. Keep that in mind. I didn't have an open door policy. People could come in my office and ask me a question, but they also knew that I got to decide if I wanted to engage in that question right then and there. So I'm not going to stop what I'm doing to deal with an immediate question or concern. Unless it's a quick question, yes, I would. Anything long term, I need you to go back to the policies and procedures that were established and go ahead and put those in place and go ahead and do that. Okay? So you don't have to prove yourself at all. Don't have to prove your work ethic because you already have it. And if you're trying to prove it, you may be being a little disingenuous to you by trying to prove your work ethic because it's already there, right? And if you're being inauthentic, there's going to come across and then you're wondering why people are trying to figure you out because there's something about you that's not gelling. Just be who you are, set up the systems, let it work for itself. Then you can spend more time understanding the people who work for you and how you want them to view you working in the job. Okay. So your mindset will rule your day more than anything else. Okay. All right. So almost done. 3 tips. 3 tips. 1, I want you to know your why. Why are you working at this job? Why did you hire this? Why did you decide to take on this job? If you own the job, why did you take on the employees? Why are you there? Why are you showing up? Why do you have them there? You have to know your why because it helps with the boundaries and having some realistic expectations. Number 2, know your own temperament level. Know what you're capable of and know what some things like, I'm not good at that. What makes your mood good? What makes your mood happy? And then what are some things that makes your mood a little bit low? Okay? What are some things that make it low? And that will help you know when you're ready to engage with your workers and then sometimes when you need to kind of pull back. Okay? In the mornings, I need time to myself. So if a worker want to talk to me as soon as I got in the door, I'm like, hey, give me a moment. Let me get settled and then I'll come to you. Now, my settle typically took an hour. And I wouldn't wait for them to keep coming back to me. I will come to you. You're already setting that boundary. My mood kind of lower, usually on Fridays. I want to wind down from the week. I want to plan for the weekend. Let's minimize. We just had staff meeting the day before on Thursday. Hopefully got everything out and we're all winding down, right? And the last one is I want you to get ahead of the game. I want you to pay attention to your atmosphere. I want you to pay attention to what's being said. I want you to pay attention to what's not being said. I want you to notice what changes are coming up. I want you to hear discussions and think, what does that mean if they're talking about this? I don't want you to get too comfortable. And I want you to speak up. When I say speak up, I don't mean yelling and those types of things or being combative. I mean speaking up about getting clarity about what you want, about what's going on, about what's best for you, about where you fall into the leadership role if you're a leader at your job. Where do you fall there? Okay? And you don't want them to invent who you are. So when you speaking up, it's like, this is who I am and I'm telling you that. There's no room for misinterpretation. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give me a thumbs up, subscribe below. Love to read your comments. Drop a comment below, and I will read it I'll read it when it pops up. We drop videos every Monday. We'd love to see you back here. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.